2026 is going to reward a very specific type of podcaster. And it's not probably the one that you may think. It's not the podcaster that is the busiest, it's the loudest. It's the one that thinks about podcasting in a different way. The one that looks at podcasting as a real brand asset, not just content. So this may be the most important video you'll watch heading towards 2026. I mean, we're still kind of kicking things off, right? So if you're considering starting a podcast, stay tuned to the end, because I'm going to drop a lot of game on you that's going to help you reshape the way you think about podcasting, so you're not wasting time just posting content. All right. I'm going to start off with brand. Before anything, before you grow anything, you have to start with knowing what this podcast is for, understanding the end outcome. How does this support everything that I'm building? Most podcasters skip out on the brand part and just want to jump straight into, I want to launch a show, and then how do I grow? That's just usually how it goes. But brand is the foundational piece a lot of podcasters skip. What does your podcast stand for? Who is it for? And what problem or value transformation you're going to deliver your audience? And I'm going to add another one. What does your podcast add to the ongoing conversation that's already having, that's out there? When you answer those questions and get very clear, I do feel like a podcast becomes a really, really strong brand asset that's going to compound over time. That's going to help you in your business. And that's why I was really passionate about this, because if your podcast doesn't have a clear brand, again, growth just amplifies confusion, period. So early during my podcasting days, I was chasing the downloads. I was trying to, grow the show and look at the numbers. I just had a podcast. I was just excited about, doing the interviews and building relationships. And that back then was my why. But even that started shifting and be like, okay, aside from just having conversations, what is this really about, Ozeal? So when the game changed is when I did another rendition of a podcast, and I got very clear on the messaging and the positioning of the podcast as it relates to the industry. Now, it wasn't because I was trying to compete. It was simply about figuring out, again, what am I adding on to the conversation that's already being had? That is an important question for you to ask yourself. So again, some little competitor analysis to see what's going on. Obviously, you want to do something that moves you, but understand, what does the landscape look like? And then position the podcast to where it could stand out, right? And attract growth and attract where I'm going to next, which is number 2, audience. Now, audiences aren't attracted to frequency, FYI. Okay, let me just be real with you. It's really interesting when I get a lot of podcasters that always come to me about coaching them to growth, but they don't have their foundation dialed in. Your audience is going to be attracted to your clarity. Let me repeat that again. Let me go ahead and break all that down. That audiences aren't attracted to your frequency. They're attracted to the clarity you bring them, period. And this is the reason why just being consistent isn't the best advice. You put in the reps, I get it, but comes a point, especially if you're disciplined, if you're fairly disciplined, you're going to need more than consistency, right? Alignment is the better way, a better strategy to attract the right listeners over your algorithms. That's why I believe that having a niche, like the more niche you are, I do believe that the riches are in the niches. You might have heard that. I do feel like there's something about having a very targeted, hyper-focused niche that will attract more listenership, especially now in 2026. When it comes to building an audience, audiences will be attracted to your message when they feel understood, when they feel seen, when they feel heard. When you deliver a very specific, clear transformation that we're here and I'm going to take you on a journey to get you there. I have revisited this with the show Creator Factor on my podcast, which, by the way, if you haven't listened to it, check it out. But the transformation I had to revisit this that I want to deliver is I want to help business-minded content creators go from creating content to becoming a part-time, full-time, paid content creator, whether it's through digital courses, coaching, hosting, memberships in various ways. But if I can help a creator get paid for the value they bring to their audience, that's a win. And that's the journey that I'm on. This is very much similar to how you do with podcasting, is showing up with intention and making sure that the right audience is going to be aligned, not just because, they just are enamored by your content output, but because the right audience grows slower but stays longer when you are in alignment and you know what the podcast is for and who it's for. I know for a fact that whenever I got clear on my audience and I was like really focused that it's not just for content creators, because content creator is a very broad term. There's entertainment content creators, there's value-based content creators, or educators rather. There's different, right? My specific creator, the people that I'm targeting are the ones that are focused on more the educational side of things. They're more thought leaders, personal brands, speakers, consultants, and they're building a content ecosystem to generate leads and help them build a business behind it. And that's the type of trust that I'm looking to compound with my audience. So once you get clear with your audience, that's how you can launch a really success and grow a successful podcast. The last thing that I want to mention is monetization. Okay. Money is a result of the value you bring to your audience. A mistake that I see a lot of podcasters make is they get into podcasting because they see that there's a lot of money being poured into it by major networks, or let's say they read a headline that Spotify acquired this podcast and this podcaster is making millions. Yes, deals are happening. There's a lot of money to be made in podcasting. But monetization is a lagging indicator. I don't think it's a starting point. And a lot of podcasters think that they want to make money right out the gate. Ads are, advertising is not the only way to make money. I do feel like podcasting is now in this space, especially if you're the type of podcaster that I'm looking to serve, is that you can serve an offer. You can put together a mastermind. You can really build your relationship off your authority and your leadership and what you teach. There's relationships to be made on the back end where you can build partnerships and potentially monetize that way. There's a lot of ways to kind of convert trust into real dollars and real opportunity. And it's not about forcing revenue. It's about really understanding your brand, who you attract, your audience, and then how you can monetize that and have your podcast support that. Okay. So I say all that in that 2026 is going to be the year that's going to reward podcasters who think long-term. They're not in it for the microwavable type of content where it's like, let me just go ahead and launch a podcast because everybody else has started a podcast. No, this podcast strategy is going to be for the ones that have a long-term mindset. You don't need to go viral. You don't need to have massive downloads. You don't need to just do all the things that everybody else is doing. What you need, my friend, is clarity and patience. Is the BAM method. Build a brand, attract an audience, and then monetize your message. That's how you're going to have a successful podcast in 2026. So if you're serious about starting a podcast that actually matters, first off, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm going to have a lot more content like this, and I'm going to do more live streams. And I have some really good ideas that I want to, and some things that I'm going to be launching here soon that's going to help you have a successful podcasting journey, because I want to see you succeed. And again, this channel is for podcasters that want to play the long game. All right. So if that's you, stick around, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And then also Make sure you subscribe to the Creator Factor if that's something that you feel fits your flow and where you're at as a creator. And then you can always send me a message if you want to book a call with me. Okay, I do offer a few offers, coaching programs, from 1 hour sessions to other offers that I have to help you get clear with your brand positioning, get clear with your messaging, period, and how you grow your podcast. All right. So thank you so much for being a part of this journey. I appreciate it. And hopefully this was valuable to you. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you on the next video or podcast. Peace.